The crisp morning air held a hint of the day's coming warmth, as Lucas, a single father, navigated the bustling supermarket parking lot. His mind, as usual, was a whirlwind of calculations. Groceries, Clara's school project, the looming rent. It was a familiar dance, a delicate balance he performed daily to ensure his 8-year-old daughter, Clara, had everything she needed, and a little more. What he couldn't have known, as he pushed his worn shopping cart toward the entrance, was that a simple act of honesty was about to unfurl a chain of events that would lead him directly to a court summons the very next day. And not just any court summons, but one issued by Dr. Helena Vasconcelos, the owner of the elegant wallet he was about to discover, and a judge of considerable renown. Lucas's life revolved around Clara. Every scraped knee, every triumphant drawing, every whispered bedtime story was a testament to his unwavering dedication. He worked tirelessly as a stocker at the local supermarket, a job he approached with quiet pride and an almost methodical efficiency. The rows of canned goods, the perfectly stacked produce, each item represented a small victory in his ongoing battle to provide. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest work, and it paid the bills, mostly. This particular morning had begun with its usual challenges. Clara, her bright eyes wide with anticipation, had asked, "Daddy, will you be there for my presentation tomorrow? All the other parents are coming." A pang of guilt, sharp and swift, pierced Lucas's chest. He had a double shift, a necessity to cover an unexpected expense. "I'll try, sweetie," he'd murmured, even as his heart sank, knowing the odds were stacked against him. The internal conflict was a constant companion, a silent battle between duty and desire. It was amidst this mental tug-of-war that he spotted it. Lying incongruously on the cold asphalt, near a discarded shopping cart, was a dark leather wallet. It looked expensive, its material supple and unmarked. A quick glance around revealed no frantic owner, no one searching the ground. He bent down, his fingers brushing against the smooth leather. It felt substantial, hinting at its contents. A fleeting thought, a whisper of temptation, brushed his mind. The bills piling up, Clara's longing for a new art set, the worn-out soles of his own shoes. He could easily walk away, or even— no. He pushed the thought away with a force born of ingrained principles. He remembered Clara's innocent question just last week. "Daddy, why is it important to always tell the truth?" His answer had been simple, yet profound. "Because honesty is like a lighthouse, Clara. It always guides you home, even when the sea is rough." With a firm resolve, Lucas picked up the wallet. He didn't open it, didn't peek at its contents. His only thought was to return it. He walked into the supermarket, bypassing his usual route to the stockroom, and headed directly for the customer service desk. "I found this in the parking lot," he stated, placing the wallet gently on the counter. The young employee, a new hire, looked at him with a flicker of surprise, a subtle nod of recognition for his integrity. "Thank you, sir," she said, her voice tinged with genuine appreciation. Not many people would do that. Lucas simply offered a small, tired smile and walked away. That evening, as he read Clara her favorite fairy tale, a quiet sense of peace settled over him. The day's worries hadn't vanished, but the small act of kindness, the decision to do the right thing, brought a gentle warmth. He watched Clara's eyelids grow heavy, her breathing even out, and he reflected on how sometimes the smallest gestures could make the biggest difference, even if their impact was unseen. Little did he know, the unseen impact of his honesty was about to become very, very visible. The following afternoon, a stark brown envelope arrived, delivered by the mailman, who usually only brought circulars and overdue bills. Lucas, accustomed to the mundane rhythm of his post, felt an immediate jolt of unease at the official-looking seal. His hands, calloused from years of lifting and stacking, trembled slightly as he tore it open. Inside, a single sheet of paper, crisp and formal, bore the unmistakable heading of the local courthouse. His brow furrowed in confusion. A summons? For him? Lucas's life was a meticulous dance of work, childcare, and the occasional quiet evening spent repairing Clara's worn-out toys. He had never been in trouble, not even a parking ticket in recent memory. He reread the document, his eyes scanning for a familiar name, a case number, anything that might connect him to this bewildering legal missive. And then he saw it, a name that made his stomach clench with a mixture of recognition and profound bewilderment. Judge Helena Vasconcelos. The same name. The very same name printed on the driver's license he had glimpsed in the wallet just yesterday. A cold wave washed over him. Had he done something wrong? Had he somehow mishandled the wallet? The thought was absurd. He had simply returned it, acting on the purest impulse of honesty. Yet, the official tone of the summons, devoid of explanation, left a gaping void for his anxieties to fill. He read it again, slowly, deliberately, hoping to unearth some hidden clause, a subtle hint as to why he was being called to appear before a judge. But there was nothing beyond the stark command to present himself at the courthouse on Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock, in the chambers of Judge Vasconcelos. No reason, no case type, just an imperative, laced with the unyielding authority of the law. His mind raced, grappling with the possibilities. Was this some obscure legal formality connected to found property? Or was it something else entirely, something he couldn't even fathom? He considered calling the court, seeking clarification, but a strange apprehension held him back. He didn't want to appear overly anxious, or worse, guilty of some unknown transgression. He decided to wait, to digest this unsettling development in silence, hoping that clarity would somehow emerge before the appointed day. Clara, sensing the shift in his usually calm demeanor, peered up at him from her coloring book. "Daddy, why do you look like you just saw a ghost?" she asked, her voice innocent and clear, cutting through the fog of his worry. Lucas forced a smile, a strained attempt to mask the turmoil churning within him. "Just thinking about work, sweetie," he lied gently, ruffling her hair. "Big day tomorrow." He hated lying to her, but he couldn't burden her with his sudden, inexplicable anxiety. How could he explain a court summons when he himself had no idea what it meant? The rest of the evening passed in a blur of forced normalcy. He helped Clara with her homework, read her a bedtime story, and went through the motions of his routine. But his mind constantly circled back to the brown envelope lying on the kitchen counter. The quiet peace he had felt just the night before, born of a simple act of kindness, had been shattered. He knew, with a growing sense of dread, that the next day would be anything but ordinary. His life, usually so predictable in its struggles, was about to take an unforeseen turn, guided by the very person whose lost possession he had so honorably returned. The weight of the unknown pressed down on him, a heavy shroud preparing him for a journey into the unfamiliar world of legal chambers. The morning light, usually a welcome sight, felt intrusive to Lucas. He had barely slept, his mind a relentless carousel of questions and anxieties, each turn bringing a new scenario, none of them comforting. The clock read 5:30, an hour earlier than his usual wake-up time, yet he felt as if he had already lived a full day. He slipped out of bed quietly, careful not to disturb Clara, who was still deep in her innocent slumber. The weight of the impending court appearance pressed on him, a tangible burden that made each movement feel heavy. He began preparing breakfast, the familiar sounds of sizzling bacon and bubbling coffee a small comfort in the storm of his thoughts. He tried to project an air of normalcy, a steady hand flipping pancakes, a calm demeanor as he poured orange juice. Clara soon emerged, rubbing sleep from her eyes, her small frame radiating the usual morning energy. "Good morning, Daddy," she chirped, oblivious to the turmoil beneath his composed facade. "What's for breakfast?" "Your favorite," he replied, forcing a smile that felt brittle. He watched her eat, her innocent chatter about school and her friends, a stark contrast to the grim reality awaiting him. "Are you going to work early today?" she asked, her gaze fixed on him. Lucas hesitated, searching for words that would be both truthful and reassuring. "Something like that, sweetie. Just have some things to resolve. Important things." He hoped his vague explanation would suffice, and thankfully, Clara accepted it without further questioning, her mind quickly moving on to the adventures of her cartoon characters. After dropping Clara off at school, a knot tightened in his stomach as he steered his old sedan towards the city center. The courthouse loomed in the distance, a formidable structure of gray stone and imposing columns, its architecture speaking of gravitas and unyielding law. It was a building he had only ever seen from afar, a symbol of a world entirely separate from his own. Now, he was being drawn into its very heart. He found a parking spot a few blocks away, the walk giving him a moment to collect himself, though his heart hammered against his ribs with increasing intensity. He paused at the grand entrance, taking a deep, shaky breath. He smoothed down his simple, clean shirt, a futile gesture against the tide of his nervousness. The heavy wooden doors swung open, revealing a cavernous interior, hushed and echoing. The air inside was cool, carrying a faint scent of old paper and polish. He approached the formal reception desk, a gleaming barrier of dark wood behind which a stern-faced woman sat. "Lucas Miller," he stated, his voice a little hoarse. "I have a summons to appear before Judge Vasconcelos." The woman consulted a ledger, her fingers tracing lines of text. "Ah, yes, Mr. Miller. Judge Vasconcelos is expecting you. Third floor, room 307. She prefers to see you personally." The words, "personally," resonated with a new wave of apprehension. What could be so personal about a lost wallet? He mumbled his thanks and headed towards the elevators, his legs feeling strangely heavy. Each floor ascended felt like a step further into the unknown, his heartbeat quickening with every passing moment. He stepped out onto the third floor, the corridor silent, lined with closed doors, each bearing a brass plaque. Room 307. He stood before it, his hand trembling slightly as he reached for the cold metal doorknob. His hand hovered, a moment of profound hesitation stretching into an eternity, before the heavy oak door to room 307 swung inward. A security guard, whose presence Lucas hadn't even registered, had opened it from the inside, revealing not a sterile courtroom, but a spacious, elegant office. Sunlight streamed through tall windows, illuminating dust motes dancing in the air and glinting off the spines of countless legal tomes lining dark mahogany bookshelves. The room exuded an aura of quiet authority, yet it felt surprisingly welcoming, a stark contrast to the imposing exterior of the courthouse. Behind a large, meticulously organized desk sat a woman of undeniable poise and presence. Her dark hair was neatly pulled back, revealing sharp, intelligent eyes that met his with an unwavering gaze. She was dressed in a tailored suit, its rich fabric speaking of understated quality. This had to be Judge Helena Vasconcelos. Lucas felt a jolt of recognition, a faint, fleeting memory of the face on the ID card from the wallet. He stood awkwardly at the threshold, suddenly very aware of his simple clothes and the tremor in his hands. "Mr. Miller, I presume." Her voice was clear, calm, and carried a subtle warmth that surprised him. It wasn't the cold, judicial tone he had braced himself for. He managed a nod, his throat feeling unexpectedly dry. A small, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips as she rose, extending a hand across the desk. "Helena Vasconcelos, please, come in and have a seat." Lucas stepped into the room, his mind racing, trying to reconcile this polite, almost gentle reception with the formal summons that had brought him here. He accepted her handshake, her grip firm and brief. He moved towards the plush leather armchair she indicated, his confusion deepening with every passing second. Why was he here, in her private office, being greeted like an honored guest, instead of standing before a bench in a formal hearing? He sat down, perching on the edge of the seat, his gaze fixed on her, waiting for an explanation. "I imagine you're quite confused, Mr. Miller," she began, her eyes twinkling slightly, as if she could read the turmoil in his mind. Lucas could only offer another hesitant nod. The summons was rather unconventional, I admit. But then, so was the reason for it. She paused, letting the words hang in the air, building a gentle suspense. Then her gaze softened, a hint of genuine gratitude entering her expression. "The wallet you found yesterday, Mr. Miller, the one you so kindly returned, it was mine." A wave of relief, so profound it almost buckled his knees, washed over Lucas. He hadn't realized how tense he had been, how much he had feared some unknown accusation. But relief was quickly followed by surprise. Of course, it was her wallet. The name on the ID. He felt a blush creep up his neck. This whole elaborate charade just for a returned wallet? It seemed excessive, yet the sincerity in her eyes was undeniable. "Oh," he managed, the single syllable carrying a multitude of unspoken thoughts. I only did what anyone would do, Judge." Helena watched him, her expression thoughtful, assessing. "Perhaps, Mr. Miller, but in my line of work, I see a great deal of what anyone would do, and unfortunately, true honesty is a rarer commodity than one might hope." Her gaze held his, unwavering. "Your act was not just anything, Mr. Miller. It was significant. More significant than you might realize." Her voice softened further, a flicker of emotion passing through her eyes. There was something in that wallet, something irreplaceable, that went far beyond its monetary value. A photograph of my daughter. It was the last one taken before she left for her studies abroad. Its sentimental value cannot be quantified. She paused, a quiet sigh escaping her lips. "You returned a piece of my history, Mr. Miller, and for that, I wanted to thank you properly." Lucas shifted in the plush armchair, a knot of bewilderment still tightening in his stomach despite the wave of relief. He understood now why he was here, but the elaborate nature of the summons still felt disproportionate to his simple act. He cleared his throat, feeling a little bold, a little overwhelmed. "Judge Vasconcelos, please, I really appreciate you saying that, but a phone call, or even a note, would have been more than enough. This seems like a lot of trouble for a returned wallet." His gaze swept around the elegant office, the rich wood, the towering bookshelves, the aura of serious legal business. He felt acutely out of place, a stalker from a supermarket sitting in a judge's private chambers. Helena offered a soft, knowing smile, a glint of determination in her eyes. Perhaps, Mr. Miller, for a mere thank you. Yes. But my intention was never simply to express gratitude through conventional means. My intention was to underscore the profound importance of what you did, not just for me, but as an example. In my daily life, Lucas, she used his first name, a subtle shift that made him feel even more disarmed. I preside over cases where deceit, self-interest, and a blatant disregard for others' property are commonplace. People lie, they cheat, they steal. It is a constant, draining reminder of humanity's darker side. She leaned forward slightly, her voice dropping to a more intimate tone. Then you come along. A man who, despite what I can only imagine are his own struggles, chooses integrity. You could have kept the wallet, or at least its contents. Many would have, but you didn't. You returned it, intact, with everything in its place, including something you couldn't possibly have known was priceless to me. Her eyes held his, a deep sincerity radiating from them. Your act, Mr. Miller, was a beacon. It was a reaffirmation that, even in a world that often seems intent on proving otherwise, good people still exist. Honest people. People with a moral compass that points true north. Lucas found himself fidgeting, running a hand over his slightly damp forehead. He wasn't accustomed to such praise, especially not from someone of her stature. He felt a blush creep up his neck again, a mix of embarrassment and a strange, unfamiliar pride. He mumbled a quiet, "Thank you, Judge," unsure of how else to respond to such a profound commendation. His gaze drifted to his hands, clasped tightly in his lap, feeling the weight of her words. He had never considered his honesty to be anything extraordinary. It was simply how he was raised, how he intended to raise Clara. Helena observed his discomfort, a gentle understanding in her expression. I wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to show my team, and frankly, remind myself that there is still hope, still goodness. And beyond that, she continued, her curiosity now more evident. I was intrigued. Who was this man? What kind of person, in this day and age, would go to such lengths for a complete stranger? I wanted to meet the man behind the gesture. I wanted to understand what motivated such unwavering integrity. She paused, allowing her words to sink in, her gaze unwavering. That, Mr. Miller, is why I summoned you. Not for judgment, but for recognition. Not as a defendant, but as a testament to the kind of character we so rarely encounter, and so desperately need to celebrate. The weight of her explanation settled over Lucas, a heavy cloak woven from unexpected admiration and a newfound sense of his own quiet virtue. He had simply been himself, and it had somehow been enough to warrant this extraordinary summons. The judge's words hung in the air, a testament to Lucas's character that he never sought. He finally met her gaze, a silent acknowledgement passing between them. Then, with a deliberate motion, Helena opened a drawer in her expansive desk, revealing a crisp white envelope nestled inside. Lucas's breath caught. He immediately knew what it was, and a wave of polite refusal washed over him. He straightened in his chair, his hands coming up slightly in a gesture of gentle rejection. Judge Vasconcelos, he began, his voice firm but respectful, I truly appreciate your kind words, and I understand your sentiment. But I assure you, I didn't return your wallet expecting anything in return. My intention was simply to do the right thing. Nothing more. I couldn't possibly accept a reward for that. His refusal was genuine, born from a deeply ingrained sense of principle. He hadn't thought twice about returning the wallet, and the idea of profiting from a simple act of honesty felt fundamentally wrong to him. Helena observed him, a faint approving smile touching her lips. She closed the drawer without removing the envelope, a silent acknowledgement of his integrity. "I understand, Mr. Miller," she said, her tone softening further. "And your refusal only reinforces my assessment of your character. It tells me you deserve far more than you currently imagine, or perhaps allow yourself to believe." She paused, her gaze thoughtful. "Allow me, then, to ask a more personal question, if you don't mind. You mentioned your family earlier. Do you have children?" Lucas's demeanor shifted instantly. The tension in his shoulders eased, and a warmth spread across his face as he spoke of his daughter. "Yes, Judge. I have an 8-year-old girl, Clara. She's my world." His voice was laced with an undeniable tenderness, a stark contrast to the guarded tone he had maintained throughout the earlier part of their conversation. He spoke of Clara with an open heart, sharing a glimpse into the profound love that anchored his life. Helena's smile deepened, a wistful, almost nostalgic expression appearing on her face. "An 8-year-old," she mused softly, her eyes distant for a moment. "How wonderful! I also have a daughter, though she is grown now and lives quite far away." A flicker of sadness crossed her features, a fleeting shadow that revealed a hidden vulnerability. "It's funny, isn't it? How quickly they grow up, and how much of ourselves we see in them." Her gaze returned to Lucas, a profound empathy now evident. "That's why," she continued, her voice gaining a touch of emotion, "when I realized the photo of my daughter was still in that wallet, intact, after all these years, it wasn't just a photo. It was a piece of her history, a tangible link to her childhood. And you, Mr. Miller, you returned that piece of history to me." Lucas listened, a new understanding dawning on him. He had seen the photo briefly, a faded image of a young girl with bright eyes, but he hadn't grasped its true significance to the judge until now. It wasn't just about the money or the cards. It was about the irreplaceable sentimental value, a mother's cherished memory. He saw the genuine emotion in her eyes, the raw human connection that transcended her stern professional exterior. This formidable judge, so composed and authoritative, was also a mother, and his simple act had touched a deeply personal chord within her. He realized then that her summons was not just about acknowledging honesty. It was about acknowledging a profound kindness that had restored a precious part of her own past. The relief he felt was now tinged with a quiet awe for the woman sitting before him, who had chosen such an unconventional, yet deeply personal, way to express her gratitude. Helena rose from her chair, a graceful movement that signaled the impending conclusion of their unexpected meeting. Her eyes, usually sharp and analytical, now held a softer, almost compassionate light as she looked at Lucas. "Mr. Miller," she began, her voice firm yet imbued with a warmth he hadn't heard before, "what you did for me, for my lost memories, it was more than just an act of honesty. It was a reaffirmation of faith in humanity, a beacon in a world that often feels shrouded in cynicism. A simple thank you, or even a monetary reward, as you rightly refused, would never truly suffice." She paused, her gaze unwavering, holding his attention completely. "My professional life, as you can imagine, often exposes me to the darker side of human nature. Your integrity, your dedication to your daughter, and your quiet strength have left a profound impression on me." Lucas braced himself, a strange mix of anticipation and trepidation swirling within him. He had no idea what could possibly follow such an impassioned statement. He had returned a wallet. He had done what he believed was right. What more could there be? Helena walked around her desk, stopping before him. I've learned a great deal about you in the past day, Lucas. If I may call you Lucas, she offered, a subtle shift from the formal Mr. Miller. Your employment at the supermarket, your commitment to Clara, the struggles you face as a single father trying to provide a stable life for her. Her words, though factual, were delivered with an underlying current of empathy that made Lucas feel truly seen for the first time in a long while. It's clear you are a man of immense character, deserving of opportunity, not just accolades. She took a deep breath, her eyes sparkling with conviction. Lucas, I have a proposition for you, one that I believe will not only reward your honesty, but also provide the stability and future you and Clara so clearly deserve. Lucas's heart hammered against his ribs. He felt a profound sense of unreality, as if he were dreaming. A proposition? He managed to stammer, his voice barely a whisper. Yes, she confirmed, a gentle smile gracing her lips. My office requires a new administrative assistant, someone with impeccable integrity, a strong work ethic, and a compassionate understanding of people. It's a position that offers a significantly higher salary than your current employment, comprehensive benefits, and a schedule that would allow you to be present for Clara in ways you currently cannot. More importantly, it's a role that requires discretion and trust, qualities you have demonstrated in abundance. The words hung in the air, transforming the trajectory of Lucas's life with each syllable. He stared at her, his mind struggling to process the magnitude of her offer. A new job, one that promised financial security and time with Clara. It was everything he had ever wished for, a dream too distant to even articulate. His eyes welled up, a sudden rush of emotion overwhelming him. He thought of Clara, of her innocent questions about his presence, of the sacrifices he had made, and the exhaustion he had often felt. This wasn't just a job. It was a lifeline, a chance to build a better future for his daughter. Helena watched him, her expression soft. This isn't charity, Lucas, she said, as if reading his thoughts. This is an investment in a good man, a dedicated father, and a person who embodies the very principles we strive to uphold in this court. Your honesty wasn't just a random act. It was a testament to who you are, and I believe in investing in people like you. Lucas could only nod, tears silently tracing paths down his cheeks. The realization that his simple act of returning a wallet had led to such a profound, life-altering opportunity was almost too much to bear. It was a powerful testament to the unseen ripple effects of kindness, a reminder that true justice often unfolds in the most unexpected ways. His life, once a continuous uphill battle, had just found a new, hopeful path, all because he chose to do the right thing. He left the courthouse that day not as a summoned stranger, but as a man reborn, carrying with him not just a new job offer, but a renewed faith in destiny, gratitude, and the enduring power of human connection.